3 legs came down out of this wheel-like object. And I was a little afraid. So I asked Brother Jabril and his wife and others that were there to come with me because I'm going over to the wheel. Sort of reminds you like Moses. He saw a fire and he was with members of his family. He said, stay here. I'm going to go and see about this fire. Maybe I can bring something back and warm you. So as I asked them to come with me, a voice came out of that wheel and said, not them, just you. And as I walked over, thinking the wheel was going to come over and land for me to go in it, a voice said, relax. And a powerful beam of light came out of that wheel and lifted me up into it. It took off at a very terrific speed, and I knew that it was going to this human-built planet a half a mile by a half a mile, and I was frightened to see something that huge in the sky. The pilot, I couldn't see him. I knew he was there, but I couldn't see him. And when they were approaching the mother wheel, knowing I was afraid, he made a turn where I couldn't see it, then came in and docked. Opened the door for me to get out. I still don't see him. And opened the door for me to go in a room. When I went in that room, I won't bother you with the description of that room, but there was a speaker in the center of that room. I'm nervous now.
All right. Come on.
And a scroll rolled down in front of me. A scroll with cursive writing on it. And I'm trying to come close to read it, and Elijah Muhammad spoke to me. I die before I lie. It ain't worth it to be a liar only to be found out later. I don't have time for that. He spoke to me, and these are his words. President Reagan has met with his Joint Chiefs of Staff to plan a war. I want you to hold a press conference and make known their plans and tell them that you got it from me, Elijah Muhammad, on the wheel. Exact words. Then he said, you have one more thing to do. And when you have done it, you may come again to the wheel. And I would be permitted to see him face to face. In that short time, he dismissed me. I got back in the wheel. It took off out of a tunnel, then went up to a terrific height and turned. And when I looked down, I saw like a city in the sky. This is that city you all talk about that's in the book of Revelation. And I saw, as it were, a new Jerusalem come down from heaven like a bride. Oh, man. I know what I saw. Now I'm going to tell you how I see, that I can tell you what's coming. You can take it or let it alone. But today, I have to do this.
Yes, sir. Tell it. Yes, sir. Tell it.
Now, in the vision, the plane dropped me off outside of Washington. I went in, had the press conference, and it was over. The next morning, I woke up, and it had completely left my mind. But on the 19th of September, a great earthquake shook Mexico City. And when that earthquake shook, I was standing up praying, and the room began to shake under my feet. September 19th, 1985. Go look it up. A great earthquake. And it's not an accident that a great earthquake took place in Chile that is a precipitant of what I have to tell you today, of what's coming to America. You will not escape. I will get to the earthquake in Haiti in a little while. So I told my experience to Mother Tinetta. She's here. She lived in Cuernavaca in Mexico. I told my wife, Khadijah. But I still was like in a daze. Like I really didn't fully grasp what had happened to me. We flew into Phoenix, Arizona, Brother Jabril, and we were driving, and I told him my experience, and I saw him in the supermarket after I told him. He was weeping. I still hadn't grasped it fully. Listen. It was time now for me to go to New York. Put up on the screen what they were saying about me in New York. Mayor Koch called me the devil. Listen, man. The whole city was upset. And the Jewish Defense League was marching again. Who do you want? Farrakhan. How do you want him? Dead. But that night, we flew into Hartford because New York was so hot, I couldn't just go into New York. I came under a disguise. And I flew into Hartford Springfield Airport, and then the FOI drove me into New York, and when I got to my suite, even my wife didn't recognize me. In those days, you could get on a plane using a funny name. You didn't have to show any identification, so I got on the plane under another name, and I was made up, brother. And me and Brother Jabril, he was made up too. And while we're sitting in the plane, he said, he got out his tape recorder. He said, I want you to tell me again your experience. And as I began to tell him my experience, I began to weep. I said, you know how when a doctor is going to stick you with a needle, sometimes they rub until the skin is a little deadened, and then they hit you with the needle?